Today we're going to break down the tragic 2025 Bondi beach attack. We're going to peel back the layers and separate the hard facts from the fiction that started swirling around almost immediately after the event, using solid reporting as our guide. Everything really starts with this one devastating number: 15. 15 people lost their lives in a targeted act of terror. That number represents the terrible human toll of this event.
Okay, so let's get right into it. In this explainer, we're not just going to cover what happened on that awful day, we're also going to look at how the story itself was told, and in some pretty key ways, how it was mistold.
So, first things first, let's just establish the core facts of the attack. What do we know for sure based on the official accounts and all the investigative reporting? The where and the when were absolutely deliberate. I mean, make no mistake, this attack was specifically planned to hit the Jewish community right in the middle of a sacred religious celebration, to cause as much fear and tragedy as possible. And what's really striking here is how clear the authorities were right from the get-go. Australian officials, all the way up to the Prime Minister, left no room for doubt. They immediately defined the motive as anti-Semitic and inspired by ISIS ideology.
So, the obvious question is, who was responsible for this? Well, the investigation moved incredibly fast, and it quickly zeroed in on two people. And here's who they were: a father and son, Sajid and Naveed Akram. It's interesting to note the different nationalities there. The father an Indian national, the son an Australian national. And of course, they're very different fates at the scene of the attack. The evidence that the police found was, well, it was overwhelming. They recovered homemade ISIS flags, IEDs, bombs, in their car, and all the forensic evidence from their homes just painted this really clear and frankly chilling picture of their planning and what inspired them.
But the investigation didn't just stop at the scene. Police also started piecing together their movements in the weeks just before the attack. And this trip they took to the Philippines, it became a major focus for investigators trying to figure out if they had help or had connected with any extremist groups overseas.
Now, in the chaotic hours and days that followed, a really specific and kind of unusual claim started to make the rounds about how the attackers were actually identified.
So this was the story that started to spread, that Israel had gotten directly involved, right away using some kind of advanced facial recognition tech to help put names to the faces of the attackers.
Which, of course, raises the most important question you can ask in a crisis like this: is that true? What does the verified reporting from credible professional news sources actually tell us?
Okay, so let's do exactly that. Let's fact-check this claim by looking directly at what the major news organizations covering the attack actually reported. And right away, you see this huge contrast. The rumor was all about this foreign, high-tech intervention, but the reality, according to every credible report, it was just good old-fashioned police work: property raids, forensics, and boots-on-the-ground investigation. This is really the bottom line from a deep dive into the global news coverage. Despite this claim getting passed around online, you just don't see it mentioned in any of the primary verified reporting. It's just not there. And look at this list. It really drives home the point. We're not talking about one or two outlets. From Reuters to The Guardian, CNN to Al Jazeera, this incredibly diverse group of international media all investigated the facts. And that facial recognition story, it just wasn't one of them.
You know, it's also worth pointing out that this wasn't the only piece of disinformation out there. Other completely unsubstantiated claims, like that this was some kind of false flag operation, were also floated out there and then dismissed because, well, there was simply no evidence to back them up.
So let's zoom out for a second and look at the bigger picture here. Why was this event so profoundly significant for Australia?
To really understand the shock, you have to look at the history. For a country with famously strict gun laws, this was the deadliest mass shooting the nation had experienced in almost 3 decades. Just let that sink in.
And for the Australian Jewish community specifically, this attack marked an absolutely devastating and dark milestone. It was the single most severe terrorist incident to ever target them on their own soil.
And that leaves us with this final and I think critical thought. The Bondi attack wasn't just a physical tragedy, it was also a massive test of our information environment. It's a powerful reminder that in those moments of chaos and crisis, looking for verified facts from credible sources isn't just a good idea, it's absolutely essential.